I'll see you in August officially.
Oh, Ellie,
Yes.
you look fabulous.
Yeah, she will be our speaker in August. So I hope you all can join us then as well.
Yeah, that will be nice.
So much fun. What time is it there, Ellie?
9:30 p.m.
Ah,
So I will be joining you a little bit till 10 and something, because then I will go with my son for sleeping. So
we'll do our best to have some. Hello there. It's Nicholas, right?
he's trying to do homework and he's happy that I have this time with you so he can smuggle.
Well, tell him thank you for sharing, Mom.
Martin, thank you.
Hello, everyone.
We've got about 1 more minute, and then I want to make sure I start on time because I know that Teresa's got another commitment that we don't want to make her late.
Thank you, Nancy. I'm going to take Lena there with me.
Here we go. It's been a day of virtual travels. I started the morning with Bangkok. So I've been traveling the globe, so it's wonderful to hear. See that Ellie is on from Europe as well. And then we get a couple more persons from the US. So it's a good day. It's a good day for GWLN.
Yes, I send the invites to some of my friends in Brazil as well, but I don't know if they're attending. Because I think it's
Caroline. Hello, Caroline.
Hello, Caroline.
Hey.
Teresa, I would like to say
Hi, Patsy.
congratulations for the new position. I didn't have opportunity to talk directly with you.
Oh, thank you, Eleonora. Very much appreciate
Really
it.
have a big challenge for
Yes,
further.
I do. Yes, I do. I've got big shoes to follow. So yeah, you can imagine.
Yeah. So all the best.
Thank you.
Hi, Patsy. Hi, Georgina. Hi, everybody.
Patsy too.
Yeah.
Hi,
Patsy.
everybody.
Hi.
okay. I'm going to go ahead and get us started so that we can stay on time. I want to thank you all for attending our April North Texas Sister Society. Today we have joining us Susan Mitchell, who is our fabulous outgoing chair of Global Women's and Sister Societies. Susan is CEO of Mitchell, Stankovich and Associates. And we have Teresa Freeborn, who is president and CEO of Exceed, going into a new merger and new position that I don't want to mess that up, so I'm not going to explain it. And we also have Lena Giaconopoulos, who is the program director for our Global Women's Leadership that is part of WOCU. And so I will turn it over to y'all. I think Lena's going to get us started.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you. And thank you for the invite and including us. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Good evening to some of you. I'm really excited to be here, and it's just so great to see a lot of our faces and a lot of our members from around the states and around the globe. And just as Nancy said, I'm the program director for GWLN, and I want to introduce the two amazing ladies that will be speaking today. And just bear with me here because I tried highlighting and bringing synopses from these very, very long bios here just to give you a gist. First, we're going to hear from Sue Mitchell, who is our former chair of GWLN, our founding chair of GWLN. And as Nancy stated, Sue is the CEO of Mitchell, Stankovich and Associates, and a dear friend, if I can add that in the bio, Sue, in a quick parentheses. For those of you who may not know Mitchell, Stankovich and Associates, they provide consulting services to over 5,000 credit unions over these years. And Sue, apart from her role with GWLN, which we'll talk about briefly, she is also on the board of the Worldwide Foundation for Credit Unions. And with GWLN, We have grown over the last 12 years since it was first established, and we now have presence in about 6 continents, over 80 countries, and with the growth that we've had in Brazil and Africa the last few months, we're about at 145 sister societies in about 30 countries. And so a lot of tremendous work, a lot of momentum, and a lot of activity with Sue. In 2017, GWLN did receive the Distinguished Service Award. And for Sue personally, just a lot of amazing credits. She herself received the inaugural Diversity and Visionary Award from the California and Nevada Credit Union League. She was recognized by her contributions to the industry. And in 2018, she received the National Credit Union Foundation's Herb Wagner Outstanding Individual Lifetime Achievement Award. And most recently, I should say, Sue Mitchell-Stankovic and Associates has joined the governing body of the Credit Union DEI Collective in the United States, along with a lot of other of our industry partners, including NAFQ, CUNA, and CUA as well. And most recently, Sue transferred or passed the baton over to Teresa Freeborn, who we will also have the pleasure of hearing today. And Teresa is our new incoming chair for GWLN. And as Nancy mentioned, Teresa's previous position was President and CEO of Exceed Financial Credit Union. And with the new merger today, she is the president at Connecta Federal Credit Union. And this is a very large credit union. They have about $6 billion in assets and about 300,000 members with 33 locations. And Teresa has a very long history as well in the credit union industry. She is also one of the founding members of GWLN. It's important for us to note that. She's been with us from the beginning as well. But Teresa also has a lot in her background. She chairs CUNA's awareness campaign, and she is past member of the Research Council of the Filing Research Institute as well. She is past chair of the California Credit Union League's Board of Directors and past chair for the Credit Union for Kids Advisory Board. Active participant, I should say, in the Wine Auction Committee as well. Past trustee of the Western CUNA Management School Board of Trustees. And again, inaugural member with GWLN, big supporter, big fan as well. And Teresa as well in 2020, and it was our last in-person altogether at GAC. In 2020, she herself as well received the National Credit Union Foundation's Herb Wagner Memorial Award for Outstanding Individual Achievement. And for those of you who may not know, Teresa is a transplant from the country up north, Canada. I love sharing that because I think that's an important part of our international scope of this unique organization. So I will pass it back to you, Nancy, and you can begin, or I don't know if we're going to go directly to Sue right off. Nancy, you are muted. Can't hear you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lena. And we're going to go directly to Sue to get her started to tell us about GWLN, its beginnings, and where we are up to today.
Okay, well, thank you very much. The first thing I want to say is when Lena said the long history of Teresa and I and our careers, I just want you to know that that's not based upon years, that's based upon commitment. And so for many of you, this might be the first opportunity that you have to meet with us. And so we have the honor of being part of a World Council initiative. And so I want to start, we've kind of set this up to where I'm going to give the history and then Teresa's going to talk about the future. And so I'm going to take you through a brief overview of what's taken place in the last few years. And I want to start with why get involved. All right, all of you are on this call because you're interested in, furthering your career, advancing your career, or networking, or building additional tools, impacting the world. We all have our own personal reasons for getting involved. And in my particular case, I started a company. I'm a small business owner, have been for a lot of years. And we started the company with no money, but just a desire to be around our family. And very quickly, we learned after working with the large banks that we were introduced to credit unions. And that became an integration of social purpose as a life, as well as social purpose as a company. So my husband and I started that firm, and we quickly built it to where we had an opportunity to work with credit unions around the world. And in that process, World Council became a very big piece of it. And so I was looking at kind of the history, and I mentioned that as I came on the call. It's kind of fun to go back, and I actually went back through old files on another computer so that I could see when some of this started and when my files started. And so I'm not going to take you through this lengthy thing, but I am going to hit some of the highlights. All of our work with World Council, I call it work because it's a real commitment, and all of you have that commitment. You know, those that are sister society leaders, you have that personal commitment to making this happen, and you're doing it as volunteers. And all of us that were part of this initiative to begin with have always been volunteers. And so it was a commitment to understanding that you literally doing the right thing can also be good business. And so we started as a volunteer group. And from my perspective, in 1990s, I had put together a she group where it was my female CEOs. And at that time, there were very few of us that were my clients. And we had an opportunity to work together. And we went to, in 1999, a conference in Vancouver that was World Council. And at that moment, I was connected to people that I never had an opportunity to know in the past. And all of our group became very engaged in what we could do and how we could continue to network. Teresa's part, and you'll learn more about this, but she's part of the Women in Leadership group that started around that same time. And so this commitment to women's issues has been a lifelong journey for us. And so I wanted to integrate that. So we engaged. And so from the 1990s to the 2000s, we literally worked with World Council with exchange programs. And if you don't understand those, by the way, the World Council touches close to 1 billion people worldwide. So think about the potential here, not only locally of what you do, but the opportunity to work. And they have engagements, and those engagements and exchange programs bring people to our country, to the US, they bring people to Macedonia, they bring people to Brazil. It's an opportunity to engage. And so I became engaged in that movement. And we had exchange programs with China and with Poland. And we translated one of our educational modules into Polish for our Polish movement. So that was in the 90s. Then in 2005, I had this wonderful opportunity.
What?
I had this great opportunity to facilitate a strategic planning session with the World Council Board. And that's when I really interacted with Brian Branch. And at that time, Brian explained to me what the World Council did and the circles and the opportunity to get involved in these other initiatives. So I would say to everyone here that the opportunity to get involved in engagements, which means you go to another country, you educate, you become part of the process, exchange programs where you bring people to your organization and make that part of it, and then regional education. So I had a commitment, and our family had a commitment, that we would use our vacation time to self-fund, if you will, just like anything else. We put money away so we could go on those engagement programs. And once you do that, it's forever life-changing. And that's what happened. That was the genesis of this. Went to Romania, I went to the regionals, and then in talking with Brian and a lot of the women in the industry, there was a need for women to talk. There was a need for this exchange on an international level. And so there were pioneer women, there were founding women that were talking about it, part of it. And then in 2009, we held our first forum, Global Women's Leadership Forum in Barcelona. And at that time, it was very loose. We were in the basement. We were in the basement, all of you, just FYI, for a lot of years. And we went from 3 attendees to 100 attendees back to 3 attendees. So I just want you to know that your journey is very, very mixed. And you're going to have successes and then you're going to take steps back. But there we were, 2009, first Global Women Forum. We had an advisory group that engaged people. We set up the logo. We set up the mission and the vision. And then in 2010, my friend Teresa Freeborn came in and helped found our first fundraising event. And she was our fundraising committee chair. And she worked, at that time, we realized we needed money, you know, to be able to do scholarships and do the mission. And that's when I learned how to sell mulligans. I learned how to put the bags together for the golf tournament, because I, unfortunately at the time, called a golf course the field, and Teresa felt she should step in and maybe educate me a little bit. And so I just want you to know that the willingness to do things wrong, but have your sisters around and your friends around to help you, was all part of that. So in 2010, we had a golf tournament. We were successful in making that happen. And we literally then said, okay, what can we do to make a difference? And so we established the first Athena Award. And if you go to the website, just quickly look, and the first Athena Award winner was a man, and that was Stan Holland. And I know Patsy's on this line, I know Caroline's on this line, and you know, many others, but Stan was the one that stepped up and helped sponsor that golf tournament. And more importantly for all of us, and I know Carolyn and I remember holding that trophy on behalf of Stan. What took place then is he, in his career, and at that time, I think there were 13 female CEOs that came out of Stan's leadership. He promoted women, he advocated for women, and he, in many of our cases, pushed us forward into the industry. And that was a strategic move, as well as something that was very important to recognize him for. The idea that we wanted to have our male colleagues as allies and as people that understood the issues. So that was our first fundraiser, our first Athena Award, and it's the time I had the wonderful opportunity of going to Africa and changing my life. Going to see the power of World Council, going to see the power of what all of you do. If you can ever put it together, I would say it's almost like I'm an evangelist. I believe so much in the work that our credit unions do within the United States and around the world. And so in 2011, we established what's called Boots in the Dirt, which was a Ventura County Credit Union initiative with World Council, which was the very first project that World Council did in the US. And the goal was, one of the board chairs from Ventura County Credit Union met Dolores, who was in Mexico working with the World Council, and a field engagement with literally taking the credit union to the migrant workers and to the people in the farms. And that's what Ventura did. They learned from their Mexican colleagues, and they literally implemented a program in 2011 based upon the initiatives in Mexico. So this sharing of knowledge became very important. And so we did our first GAC that year, and we talked to a focus group of women, and we talked about the fact of how important metrics are. So when you hear Teresa talk about the future, and when all of you think about why it's important that you register and you're part of these initiatives, is that scale matters. And we realized very early on that we needed to track those metrics. So I would describe 2011, and then 2012 was our first Sister Society meeting. And that, what is a Sister Society? You guys know. that we were doing these annual forums and we needed to bring it home. We needed to deal with the local issues. We needed all of you to be able to come together and be part of it. And so that Sister Society momentum started in 2012. And that's when we also introduced the pink ties. And quite often I'm asked, why pink? Why ties? And the reality was we wanted to have our male colleagues on the stage at all the events wearing a pink tie to recognize how important women are to the credit union movement. And we've known that women are an integral part of leadership. We also have to recognize that women are running, in most cases, smaller credit unions. And that means opportunities have to continue. And so the pink ties gave us recognition, established a strategic influence, and our friend Joe Schrader and Kim Phillips and people at that time, came in and were part of it. Diana Dykstra gave us the first opportunity to work with California League. And then you see Caroline and others got very involved. So they're, people instrumental to this leadership. Leda Garcia in Florida, that all said, we're going to step up and make this happen. Lucy Ito. I mean, I can go on and on with all the names, but I would call it pounding the rock. Literally, no one thought there was an issue in credit unions when it came to women. And all of us know that we want to be at the C-suite level. We want to be at the CEO level. We want a path to advance. And in the United States, we may have a myriad of reasons for that, but we know that advancing women is going to be a critical part of our mission. So that was the key as we kept building the first sister society and then going on. And at that time in 2013, I had the opportunity to go and I purposefully tried to attend the sessions in the other countries. And so, Asia launched, Africa, Ukraine, Brazil, Canada, Costa Rica, all of those were places, and then all throughout the United States. And I remember coming to Cornerstone to do the first session then when you guys launched the whole Cornerstone system of its sister societies, that I had come on an overnight plane from launching in Arizona. That's the kind of commitment all of us have to all of you, and all of you are also volunteers. So when you look at your future, think about that. So a couple other things. In 2016, Brazil, Manfred, the CEO and chair of Security Movement, I went down to help them launch in Brazil, and he said that he's a he for she. And he said it on stage, and we all went, right on, that's what the pink ties are, okay? And so all of a sudden that movement of he for she's became very prominent. And then in 2019, we had our first mobile app. And then the most important event that took place in the last 5 years was Lena joined this wonderful organization as a program director. And what you see and her opportunity to build it within World Council and worldwide really took off in 2020. It was Lena's vision to have the virtuals, to establish this as an international network. And so, I am blessed to have had the opportunity to work with Lena and really put this organization at the level that it is today. So in 10 minutes, I did it. I was timing myself. There's your 10 years in 10 minutes, all right? And I just wish all of you to recognize that it's you that make a difference. The passion of the volunteers makes a difference. And Teresa Freeborn has been there pushing this rock from day one in her career. And I'm so excited to pass the baton to Teresa. And Teresa, I'm doing it again. Here you go.
I know. Where's that pink baton? I think it's in my office here somewhere, but thank you, Susan. Thank you. And so good to be talking with all of you today. And I hope we do have a chance for some talking, some dialogue, because I think that's what's important. And I have to echo so much of what Sue had to say. And it was fun to take that little trip down memory lane. Thank you for taking that trip with us. There's been a lot done in a very short period of time. But I guess what I want to do today is I don't really have some formal presentation to make. There's no PowerPoint coming at you here, but I really want to talk to you about what I'm kind of bullish about and what I'm very anxious about and concerned about, and still feel that we need to put a lot of attention on. But let me just give you a little bit more background about me, because I mean, it's funny, these bios have become so long, and I think it is, the older you get, the longer your bio gets. I mean, it's just that simple. So maybe we need to have a restart on that one and pare it all back. But I do come from Canada. I did start as a teller in a credit union, my local credit union. My mom got me the first job, if you can imagine, fresh out of high school. I hadn't even started to go to college, hadn't done anything. She just said, "You're going out to work. And here's where you're going. You're going to the credit union. I arranged it for you." And I thought, oh, great. This is not what I had in mind for my big career. I was going to do, I was in the save the world stage, right? I was going to do something really amazing. Working at a credit union, I don't know. That just didn't seem to resonate with me. However, I get to find as I work with people in our industry that a lot of you started that way, right? Not just that mom got you the job, but you kind of just stumbled into it. And then, oh my goodness, it didn't take long to figure out what we have here, which is something very, very special. And you can save the world. We do noble work. I'm proud to say that every day as I help my members solve their financial problems, and in a not for profit kind of way. So anyway, that's sort of where I started. I am from Canada. I actually immigrated to the US in the year 2000. And I came for the job. I didn't know anybody here. I think the last time I'd been to Los Angeles, California was when I was about 15 years old and went to Disneyland. So truly, I came on my own. My daughter was just graduating from high school, and she said, "Mom, it's the kids that leave home, not the parents. Where are you going? What are you doing?" So it was a big move, but it was worth it. But I have to say that one of the things that motivated me so much to get involved with Global Women's Leadership Network was the opportunity to know that there's lots of young women out there that were in just the same kind of position I was in. And what I needed was a network. I needed to know that I could reach out and talk to people and get some guidance and talk to people that had been there longer than I had, and give me that comfort to know that things are going to be okay. And I guess when I think of Global Women's Leadership Network, I think probably the best part of it is the network. And don't squander that, guys. You've got a great group going here. I love the enthusiasm. I love the excitement of bringing everybody together like this. But man, there's so much there. Everyone has a story. And if you were all to tell me your story, we'd find so many similarities, but we'd find some really cool things that we can learn from each other. And so I encourage that. I love the idea of the sister societies. I'm so glad that came as an offshoot, because that did localize things, that did make it real for you and your area. You could actually, I mean, this is all pre-COVID, of course, but you could go and have lunch with someone or a glass of wine with someone and really start to connect. When you went to things like the GAC conference or a Q's conference, whatever the conferences were, you had someone to look at, right? You had someone to check in with. And there's certainly a lot more comfort in a crowd, right? In people that you know and your network. So truly, I think the biggest thing here is, let's get our nets working, okay? The network is super, super important. And I see a lot of young folks on the call here, and I love that. So don't be daunted. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of people to meet, but we're extremely welcoming. So please. What I love about the sister societies as well is the enthusiasm. That sort of insatiable appetite for knowledge, wanting to know more. The fact that you're taking an hour out of your day today to do this says that you need something, right? You're looking for something. And I hope that you're going to get that from here and get that feeling of the sisterhood, because I think it's so important. Now, if I was to talk about my agenda, which is what this has sort of been billed as, is that Teresa's going to sort of unveil this. But as I mentioned, I feel pretty good about some things, okay? So I'm pretty bullish on women right now. And I look at the world, and I look at our credit union industry, and I think of our future as credit unions, our future as Americans. and this is all coming from me, this unqualified optimist, which of course is, people that know me know that I'm always optimistic. I see things with the cup half full for sure. But I honestly believe that we're going to do well as a credit union industry in this next chapter. We're going to do well as a country, but we're going to do that because of women, because of women's role in it. And it's time, right? So if I can do anything in my chairmanship, thank God Sue set the whole thing up, so we've got this structure in place now. But if I can do anything, it's to shine this big, bright light on the advancement of women in leadership in our industry. I don't think I can put a bunch of women into the Senate or Congress. I can do my part in that. But what I can do is really look for ways that I can help make sure that we put a big bright light on this. And there's so much work to do there. I'm going to take it further though. I'm going to say that yes, advancing women is really important to me, but engaging men is how we're going to do that, because you got to know this. I'm happy to see all the men involved in our sister societies, but they have the power. Okay, they've had it for years. The whole corporate America, our credit unions are actually created by men, for men, because that was the model years ago. We're no different. Our little microcosm of credit unions is no different than the rest of corporate America. So it's not that they're doing this deliberately to keep women out. It's just the way it was structured. So we need men to help us figure out how we get more women in those leadership positions, because the world will be better. America will be better. Credit unions will be better. There's all sorts of reasons. There's tons of studies done on why corporate institutions are more profitable with women at the helm, with women in that C-suite, with women on boards. There's all sorts of research on that, and I'm not going to go through that with you today. But there's also reputational things that when women are in charge or women are at that senior table, things don't happen. Okay, we're there protecting interests, and it's really important to have women there. So there's so many reasons why this has to happen. And but when I think of the men's role here, I want to make sure that we help men recognize the value of women, participating with them, working with them shoulder to shoulder to make our institutions hugely successful. I want them as champions. I want them as advocates. They will ensure our organization's success. So I don't want to leave them behind. I want to include them in all of this conversation. And if you think that there isn't a women's agenda, I just want to remind you that there is such a woman's agenda still out there. I do have some age on my side here, but I think back, I was reflecting this morning thinking, there was a time where we burned our bras. I don't know, those of you who are of a certain age can remember that. And we did that because we wanted to bring attention to women's place in the world and how they could add so much value. We wanted to say that we were unconstrained, that all that really mattered is that we had a voice. We could be whoever we wanted to be. We didn't have to be something that the world suggested we'd be. So it's really interesting because that women's agenda, think about it. Women are in the news every day. Whether or not you're reading something that talks about statistics that show the kind of influence we have, the purchasing power we have, the decisions we make, the way we look after our families and hold our communities together, all these things are so critical. And that's part of this agenda. What about the news and the talk shows and the podcasts you all listen to about women in leadership? You listen to them. I know you do. I do too. Okay, it's really important, but it's out there. It's prevalent. If you think about the global summits that are being held around the world constantly on sort of women's rights and women's values that we bring, I just believe that this topic is just going to become more important. So the fact that we're all together here and having this network of a sister society in North Texas, this is just one little piece of everything that has to be done. And this is a great place to begin. And I know every time I talk to a sister society, I always get the feeling that they're fledgling, they're just trying to figure it out. What are they supposed to be doing? You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be getting together. You're supposed to be talking about the women's agenda, because we have an agenda and we need to keep it in the forefront and we need to keep working in that direction. And when you think about women's agendas, let's think about it. Yes, more women in the C-suite, more women on corporate boards, definitely more women on our own boards of credit unions. Come on. Do we all have 50-50 on our boards? I don't think so. Got a whole bunch of work to do there. Do we have 50 in our C-suite? Not just, oh, there's the token one we got, oh, we got 2 out of 7, or no, that's not good enough. No, we can do better there. That's why it's still on the agenda. What about equal pay? Do you know that every year I scrap to get my increase? I have to. I absolutely have to. I have to propose what I should get for a bonus. I have to fight for everything I ever got in my life. And that's not going away. It's prevalent today. So if you think it's not, take a look at the dollars. And Sue, you brought that home a couple of years ago in one of our sessions, and back then it was 70 cents on the dollar. How unfair is that? Do you think it's improved? Do you think it's 100 cents on the dollar? It's not. It's not. So again, recognizing women's contributions and paying them what they should be paid. We're graduating far more women than we are men into every profession you can imagine. And it's time for us to really use that to our advantage. But what about all the things that women need? I mean, I'm a mom. I've got 4 kids. I was a working mom, and I'm going to tell you, it was darn difficult. And you're holding the family together. You're coming home. You're doing the housework. You're cooking the meals. You're doing everything. I know this. I lived it. And it's not necessarily any easier today. I watch my kids. They're going through the same stuff. So that agenda is still real, right? It's still real. And we need to start thinking about that. Maternity leave. I'm so embarrassed for this country to not have maternity leave. I came from Canada. You have a baby, you're off for a year, and you never lose your spot in your company that you left. And you're paid. And the companies top you up. So not only do you get your unemployment insurance, the companies top you up. Where the heck is America in this? We got to push this agenda. This is ridiculous. Women you can't do it all. You need the help. So these things are important on my agenda. Let alone childcare. I mean, what are we going to do about childcare? I can't imagine those of you that have small children right now in this COVID environment. Okay. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you, and bless you when you've got them there in the rooms. And I love to see them on all the Zoom calls I have with my staff. The kids are coming up, and it's because they're all around you. You can't help it. But how hard is that? So I know you're stressed out, and I know you're feeling that pressure. But anyway, that's just to give you a little flavor of why I'm kind of, I am bullish about women and making some advancement here, but I'm kind of pissed off still. Okay. There's still a lot of things that we need to be working on. So here's my real question. Why are we still talking about women and diversity anyway? Why are we still talking about that? I mean, haven't we finally moved past this in some way? Isn't great leadership genderless? Isn't it supposed to be? Like, the fact that we talk about this every day, that all those podcasts you're listening to are still talking about this, tells me we haven't done this, right? The short answer is yes, of course it's genderless. But the long answer is that so many corporations just haven't figured it out, including credit unions. We have not figured this out. It could be corporate culture. It could be historical barriers that we have in place. It's a host of organizational issues that we have in our institutions. And these things are really prohibiting, that sort of feeling that leadership truly is genderless. It has nothing to do with whether you're a man or a woman. It has everything to do with whether you want to be a leader and whether you have the skills to do it. So I think at the end of the day, the challenges just aren't figured out yet. We haven't figured out how to solve these things. And I think the only thing I could suggest is that it has to be viewed as urgent, like it's time to take some urgent action. And little things, guys. I could come up with a list of things that I think you can do, but it depends on your situation at the time. But we can't let it leave our forefront of our thinking. We have to constantly think that there still is a woman issue here in terms of advancing us in leadership. It exists. And so I hope that at some point in time we can say, okay, we're there. But man, we have still so far to go. So I want to just put that out there and say that because of that, I don't know what my agenda is yet, other than I'm pretty passionate about this, and I really do want to help move us forward and do everything I can. Every time I talk to one of our credit union vendors, do you know what one of my first questions is when I talk to a credit union vendor who wants to sell me something? I want them to tell me what their board looks like. I want them to tell me what their senior management team is made up of. And maybe if we all asked more of those kinds of questions, that they're going to feel the pressure. Because the pressure, I mean, look around, check these organizations. You're going to be shocked to see that women just don't exist at those senior levels. And that's just a travesty. So maybe we all have to do our little tiny bit, but it all begins here. It begins here with us at least putting a big bright light on it. So if you're interested, that's what I urge you to do, is let's find ways we can put that big bright light on the woman problem, as I call it, because it still is a problem. So with that, what I wanted to do is, I know we still have 20 minutes left. I would love to just open it up and have some dialogue and get to know each other a bit more, and feed off each other's passions and ideas and little things that we can do. So I'm going to ask Lena, and I know Lena, by the way, she's fantastic. And I'm always so proud of being part of this organization, because I know Lena is there to make sure that everything's done the way it should be done. She promotes your sister society and all the others in the world. And it's just great to work with her. So Lena, can I ask you to just sort of help us maybe do some Q&A, and we can talk about it? And by the way, just because you ask a question doesn't mean Sue or I have to answer it, because I suspect some of you have even better answers than we'd ever have. So please, let's have a little dialogue.
Thank you, Teresa and Sue, first of all, for kind words and, shedding some light. Before I go through, I want to go back to Nancy in case she had something initially that she wanted to ask before we go through, because there's a lot of things that have come up in this conversation, and oh my goodness, what a day, because my mind is going from the conversation from this morning, and that's the best part. We have to keep the conversation going and then take action, not just have the conversation for the sake of having the conversation. So Nancy, is there something specifically that you had apart from what I'm seeing here?
No.
Okay.
So we're ready for Q&A.
Well, honestly, and this is one of the big questions, and this was posed actually from our friend Susan here, which I think is a valid question. And obviously, we know 2020 was the very big year. What can we do to bring back the woman to the credit union system? Because apart from advancing women to leadership, we also have to be thinking about bringing women back, because it was affected, women were affected across the globe. And there isn't a one, I think, answer to this question. I know we all have thoughts to it, but I'm going to, and maybe even go back to Sue. Sue, what are your thoughts first?
Well, I'll start and then open it up. But I think Teresa, she's nailed it, and you can feel her passion. So I'm so excited. I think that not only do we still have the issue, as Teresa said, we actually have taken steps back this last year because of exactly what Teresa mentioned, with trying to juggle all of life's needs during a time when people are choosing to step away, or they're being laid off. And so one of the things that maybe, just like asking the question of vendors, maybe one of the things we have to ask HR to do is be intentional, make sure women are at the table, make sure we're reaching out and recruiting and ensuring that we're getting people that have had to step out of the workplace back into it. And so from a group standpoint, I also saw that we had some feedback. So maybe I throw it to Caroline for a second and just say, what are you guys seeing in your region and HR practices and things like that to support this issue?
Well, thank you, Sue, and thank you, both of you, for being here, and Lena as well. I love you all, and some of us go back very many years, but I think if there's a little bit of a bright spot to all the darkness that we saw in 2020, it's that we have learned how to manage a remote workplace. We have learned how to manage flexible schedules. And as you were speaking, I was thinking, gosh, just yesterday, I had a one-on-one with one of my direct reports she has young kids, and she has really struggled with them homeschooling and whatnot. And we've still not gone back to the office. And she said, well, what will that look like? And I said, well, here's the good news. We can wrap your schedule around, drop off and pick up with the kids. And I would hope that, because why wouldn't we? We figured out that we can do this remotely. We can be flexible. sends me emails at midnight because that's when she's finally catching up. And I always tell her, I wish you'd sleep more, but I think we can leverage that. We've learned a lot about being, about having flexible workplaces, and that benefits the entire workforce, but I think probably women more in particular benefit from that, given that oftentimes so much more of the burden of childcare or the responsibility of childcare does fall on females. So I'm a glass half full person, just like Teresa, and maybe that glass has a cocktail in it. That's a story for another time. But I just think if we have a little bit of optimism about that piece, maybe that's one way to look at a side effect of 2020.
I would agree, Caroline. And it's funny that I know at Connecta, what we're trying to do now is we're envisioning what it's going to be like for the workforce to come back. We actually have reached out and already put together one heck of a telecommute policy, and basing it on, look, you tell us what you want to do. You want to work 4 days in the office and 1 day at home. You want to work 1 day in the office and 4 days at home. Tell us what that is, and we're gonna arrange things to actually accommodate that. And what it may mean, the downside would be, is if you're, say, a manager and you have an office, you may be hoteling. You may be sharing that office with several people, because we can't keep some big space and have all of that set aside for someone who's going to be there 2 days a week instead of 5 days a week. So what I love is the enthusiasm across the board at executive level to say, we can do this, because look what's happened. Think about being this young woman with a young family, and kids are back at school. So now your kids go to school, you can work at home, and you can, I don't know, how about this? Unload the dishwasher and fold laundry while you're listening to your conference call. You know, why can't you do that? I mean, this is what you need to do, because you've got all of these responsibilities, and we need to just be more accommodating that way. It's not a bad thing. People can still work just as hard, right? So I love what we're talking about, and I'm hoping, tell me some other ideas that you guys are doing. What are you thinking? Where is it going in your credit union?
Can I ask Ellie to unmute her microphone? And the reason I'm going to Ellie is because I think it's important also to hear perspective from a different country where the situation is completely different. So Ellie, I'm going to put you on the spot, my friend, but that's okay.
No
That's why you like me.
Thanks.
So
Thanks. Thanks, Lena. Well, you know, you're completely right about what we did last year with the woman issue about being them. It's looked like out of the working space. But thanks to telecommuting and all these activities, we've been able to allow them to work at home. And as Teresa said, whatever time it's good for them, it's good for us also. But the most important, I think, what we did last year was when the COVID started, we made promise to each of our employees that we will never, whoever is get ill or it's get ill in his or her family, we will make sure that they will go home and take care, because we had the schools are closed almost more than a year. So it was necessary, especially for women, to make sure that they are not afraid for their children to be left at home, you know, alone. So we make sure that whoever would like to be at home, that it is to be at home. But what I think it was the most important, what we need to push, and I think what will be the challenge for us in the next years, is that, you know, the women are working from home, but when we need to promote, better for public relation, amen. They will be, so we don't see them, how they are working, and that probably puts them in the more position that they need we need to educate them to promote themselves, whatever work they do, because when they're at home, they're even less visible. They can work probably 13 hours, but we will have them. Normally that is maybe cultural, but we will be more visible from some men that are in the office for 5 hours. So I think the most important will be that we need to teach our women when they work really from home, that also they need to promote whatever they did, like this, on the same spirit, like they're at work. So that was something from the last year, and we push, and we have this last week global sister global society here, and that was in all company, not only in our institution, but that was the visibility of the woman is less now because they are at home working, and it's look like that they will be forgotten for promotions. So that's my issue that I will be.
Thank you, thank you. Sue already put it in the chat. She beat me to it, but I wanted to say, you know, a large shout out to who we have on our call too, is Patsy Van Auerkirk, who's been with us for a very long time. And I have the pleasure of working with Patsy, and she chairs our fundraising committee. And I know she wants to chime in and share a little bit as well, if she can. Patsy, if you're up to it.
Yeah, I'll chime in just briefly. I actually have a earache, and so it's a little bit difficult to know how loudly I'm speaking. But yeah, I got involved as a founding member as well, and I remember the band Burning Our Bra days, and thought that we had advanced a lot further than it turns out maybe that we have. And so I've continued to be involved during our journey, and raising money and asking others to help support our efforts is one of the things that I enjoy the most. We have a great fundraising committee, and they're reaching out to a number of business partners. And just like Teresa says, why do we want to do business with companies that don't even look at the same values that we have in terms of advancing women and making sure there's opportunity for everyone? So I think for those of you who have influence, I'm retired now and don't have the same influence. Luckily, people still pick up the phone when I call and take my calls. But for those of you who do interact with our business partners and vendors, they really should understand that Global Women's Leadership Network helps them with their DEI commitment. And so I think that we can do a lot to advance women and those men who support us, and we can't do it without our male counterparts. So I think for women, another thing that I always try to do is make sure that I'm helping women in my organizations advance. Quite often my mentors were male, and that should not be the case. We should all be reaching back to help women succeed. So thanks, Lena, for asking me. And I'm very glad to listen in today, and sorry I don't have a little bit more energy in my voice, but I'm hearing with one good ear anyway. So good to see you all.
Thank you, Patsy.
Thank you. I just want to add one thing to Patsy. I just want to say thank you for what you do. And because of Patsy and the committee and the work that's being done, that's where the scholarships come from. That's where the empowerment grants come from. Your membership, if those of you that are attending and you're not a member, those are all the things that help us build scale to be able to do the things that we want to do and to get the grants. And so I just wanted to reinforce this was an opportunity because of Patsy and her work and what's happening with the overall committee to just reinforce for everybody that the pink items, you know, they help fund scholarships. The, you know, our vendors, the business partners, all of those folks, but also our credit union people. Each one of us to promote within our credit unions the need to do the fundraising. So I just wanted to emphasize my parting message: raise money, raise money.
Thank you, Sue. There was another question that I wanted to address because Teresa said that we should be asking our vendors, you know, who makes up your board? How many women do you have on your board? Or how many women are in your executive leadership team? But also looking at how many women of color do you have? How many Latinx individuals do you have? How many Asian Americans do you have? I think that's important too. And I, not just because of everything that's been happening in the US this past year, it should always be part of the process. And I don't know if our colleague here, I skipped the name here, just one second, may want to chime in, Georgetta Carvin?
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Hello.
Well, I'm fairly new and I heard about it was more the sister society. And I want to say I heard about it probably in 2019 or 2018, but I switched credit unions. And so when I switched credit unions, my responsibilities at the other credit union was a little bit more, even though I was in leadership or management. I had a lot more responsibilities, and I just couldn't, expend the time to the meetings and things like that. But I do want to make this one point here before I get to the initial question that Elena, am I pronouncing it right?
Lena, yes, thank you.
Yeah, Elena asked about one of the things we did when I was at my former credit union, when I heard about sister societies. Well, around March, that's Women's History Month, and we celebrate women during March. Well, I was the spearhead of our credit union for the first time, just honoring women. And we made it very, very simple, as we were just looking at women who had just been at the organization for like long periods of time, because, in credit unions, we stay for 40, 50 years until they roll us out, right? Until they say no more. We don't want to fund anything else, right? So we just did that very simple thing and just did little certificates and had a big to-do at a restaurant. And it really encouraged the women who were quote unquote not in leadership positions, that they now become mentees of those women who had put in so much time at the credit union and who had moved to C-suite or director, any type of management position. But getting back to what I had typed in the comments is that I used to be a state examiner for the state of Texas. And so I've gone to quite a bit of credit unions within the southeast part of Texas, and very rarely do you see women. And if you do, you may have one or two. And then more than likely, I probably have never seen a board with a woman of color. Like you said, Asian American, Hispanic American, unless it was actually maybe a credit union where the field of members started up like in Laredo somewhere. And hope I'm not being offensive to anyone, but it maybe started in some of the South American type of cities in Texas. But other than that, I don't see it, It's just very, very rare. So it would be good to start promoting within the credit union world more women on the board, like seek it out. Because, most of these credit unions have started field of membership like at, some company or plant or whatever. That's how the field of membership have started out. And then also be intentional. It's okay to be intentional about these types of things. And because this, again, goes into the DEI. But yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Georgetta.
I want to add, I started in this industry in 1975, and it was pretty much a male role. And it was in the days of burning the bras. And as I look back at my mentors, they were all male. But I also learned at my first credit union CEO position, when they hired me, the chairman of the credit committee quit because they had hired a woman. At this credit union in 2000, when I was hired, one of the board members quit because they had hired a woman. So every time we think we come a long ways, 20 years is not that long ago for someone to have walked off the board. And I hope as we're going forward, I hope that I mentor women, and I hope that all of you, the younger women on here that are early in their careers, find help in leadership from women, and that they view gender or race as not an issue in the room when you're looking at the person's ability to do the job. And I think that global women's and sister societies can mentor so many men and women to come forward and grow as people and acceptance.
Wow. I'm not going to say anything else. I'm done. I can go now.
Yeah, that might be a great way to wrap it up, Nancy. That was powerful.
Fantastic.
That was, and this is your meeting. We just came in to, shed some light, and you had, Sue and Teresa here who really, always, when they speak, they make you think. That's what I love coming out of these meetings. They always make you think and question and then say, okay, so now what do I do? What is my action? Because words are wonderful, like we said, but now you got us thinking about actions to take. So thank you.
So Lena, could I just fill that blank in then? What's the action plan? So if you're all I think it's been so much fun to chat with you and to hear this passion. And thank you, Georgetta. Thank you, Nancy. Thank you for sharing those particular little stories. And Eleonora, yeah, sorry to keep you up late, but I'm so glad that everybody gets to have that perspective that needs to be shared. But where do you go from here? And I think, number one, do join the network. I saw in the chat, and Lena, you put in a direct link to how you can become a member of Global Women's Leadership Network, and you should be. This is part of your network. It's very minimal dollars. You can tell them that what we do at Connecta is any woman that wants to join, become a member of Global Women's Leadership Network, we'll pay for that. It's an annual dues of $250. It's nothing. And we're happy to do it. So just put the pressure on. And if you need your CEO to call me, I'll gladly pick up the phone and let them know why they should be doing that. But second, find out if your credit union is supporting World Council's foundation in any way, because this is where it all starts. If we don't have the dollars that we're raising, and corporate contributions coming from credit unions are so critical, if we all give a little, we can make something pretty amazing here and do those things. We've got sponsorship programs. We've got all sorts of ways to involve women that can't afford it, that we want to help lift up. So please do a little inquiry if you can from this point forward, and just see what you can do. What role can you play? And for goodness sake, keep meeting as a sister society. Critical, critical. Keep your networking. It's so important.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Sue and Lena and Teresa for joining us today. It's been a really great meeting. And I know we've rushed through it, but I also know Teresa and Lena have another meeting to jump on. So
we do.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Take care. Okay.
Take care, guys.
Thank
Bye-bye
you,
now.
Nancy.
Bye-bye.